Tonight, the New York Times warning its largely liberal readership that President Trump's approval is on the rise with and that a 2020 win should not be ruled out. I'm going to quote here, millions of Americans who did not like the president in 2016 now say they do. Overall, his personal favorability rating has increased by about 10 percentage points among registered voters since Election Day 2016. Joining me right now, former Hillary Clinton campaign advisor Antoine Seawright and Trump 2020 Advisory Board member Jenna Ellis. You know, Jenna, this is kind of interesting because, this is the New York Times saying, look, more people like him now than liked him in 2016. But you wouldn't know that, I think, by reading the New York Times on a regular basis, or if you happen to watch MSNBC or CNN or any other piece of mainstream media. It really seems like the world hates Donald Trump. So what's the disconnect?
Yeah, well, of course, the disconnect is typically mainstream media. They're reporting what they want to report instead of reporting the facts. And it was actually refreshing to see this piece in the New York Times that was simply fact-based. I mean, this is something where, they're looking at the polls, they're looking at the difference between 2016 when people were, hesitant because they weren't sure that President Trump would fulfill his promises, as opposed to the 2020 election where he has a track record. He has been so pro-American family. There is a strong economy, low unemployment. He's prioritized religious freedom, defunded Planned Parenthood, put over 100 originalist judges on the federal bench, including 2 excellent Supreme Court justices. I mean, these are all things that Americans actually care about. They don't care about just all of this political infighting, like what Jerry Nadler is trying to do by resuscitating these impeachment, crazy claims. So I think that his favorability rating is, of course, going up,
so,
and we're just
had some common sense sort of approach. Related to this is, Joe Biden out there, he made another gaffe today. And Antoine, I want you to get your thoughts on this, because the gaffe was basically saying something that I think, had Donald Trump said this, he would have been just labeled an immediate racist and they would have said it was a dog whistle. But somehow Biden, they laugh it off and say it's just a gaffe. Here, watch.
We should challenge students in these schools to have advanced placement programs in these schools. We have this notion that somehow if you're poor, you cannot do it. Poor kids are just as bright and just as talented as white kids, wealthy kids, black kids, Asian kids. No, I really mean it, but think how we think about it.
Yeah, no, I get what he was trying to say, and it was probably just an honest mistake, right? And he screwed up. But had Donald Trump said that, Antoine, what would the reaction have been?
Well, I know what I would have said. I would have been raising hell, as I always do, because I believe when you compare Donald Trump's body of work and his history and his comments compared to Joe Biden's, we can most of us reasonable people will agree that there's a big difference in the two and the things they advocate for, the posture they take.
So
I want to go back to something, Jenna.
Right? Is that where you're leading us?
I have said this on your program and others that, yes, I believe the president is a racist, but I don't want that to dominate the conversation because we know that already.
But that's part of this conversation because it gets us back to the polls, right? Because you keep saying he's a racist.
That's where I'm going. That's where I'm going about the polls, Trish.
Okay.
I'm going there about the polls. So polls are a snapshot of the time. I'm not surprised that the president's approval rating is consolidating among his Republican base. But as I remind my Democratic friends who are running for president, approval ratings and where they are now does not translate to people showing up to the polls for them. And what we know in this country is that there are 3 or 4, maybe 5 states who determine that pathway to 270, and that does not mean those places and those people will translate into a victory for Donald Trump because his approval rating is improving among his Republican base.
But I think I think it will, Trish. I really think that people are going to get out and vote. They are more active and vocal Trump supporters than they were in 2016. And we can compare President Trump to any of the 2020 candidates, and they're not running on any sort of policy that will actually increase the liberties and freedoms for the American people.
That's not true, Jenna. That is just a Friday night lie. I'm not going to let you do this.
It's actually not.
A lie.
It's not. It's not because you go watch those debates, and we can play another SOT string, although we're out of time. That's sound on tape No, but they really are talking about very socialist policies, Antoine.
That's
I
not
don't hear a
true.
whole lot
Like,
of
I know that's
capitalists
the
up there
argument.
on
They really
stage.
are. And Trish, just
Trish,
to
I know that's
jump
the
in
I
argument.
on
apologize
I know
to you
that's the
both.
argument
I'm out of
that
time.
the-
Antoine, Jenna, thank you so much. Coming up, everyone.